Peace, peace, peace. Greetings, 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 greetings. I didn't know. I told myself I was gonna give myself a little moment, which I did. But I'm returning here now with you all. Greetings, peace, greetings to all. Give honor to the source of the creator for making all this possible. Man, I'm loving the heat. I'm loving how a lot of things are happening right now. It's like with all the climate right now, with humanity, with everything that's shifting, everything that's happening. Just give her honor. Stay in gratitude. If I could just share anything with everyone, stay in gratitude, man. Cause this this shit is wild because you got so much happening with on a world stage, but then so many beautiful things that's transitioning. Like sometimes it's like being in between worlds, but at the same moment, it's like, what do you really focus on? And that's what's most important. Like how you have to really focus on like your life and valuing peace. I was expressing to someone today how a lot of these times or these moments were literally orchestrated and also prophesied or prepared. A lot of us were prepared and are prepared, well prepared because of a lot of the friction, a lot of the chaos or whatever it is. I see it as energy just unfolding. I see it as a lot of things just literally beyond my control. Shit, I'm looking at my video now. Part of my phone is somewhat well, I'm actually surprised that my video is coming out good like this because I dropped my phone last night. And the way that it cracked, the screen looks different, but when I'm recording, it's so clear. So I don't know, that's interesting. But it's literally the most vital thing I can share with anyone right now is to counter your thoughts. Whether it's fear propaganda, whether it's whatever's happening in the world that's beyond your control, no matter who or where, are you able to counter your thoughts and able to shift your mindset towards whatever it is that you give your attention to? A minute ago, um, I don't know how some someone and I was talking about I was talking about I think we were talking about our kids and my son. And well, I was on the topic of seeing how, seeing the beauty and how my son has, is now walking. He went from taking 3 steps to now balance so well to where he's walking like long distance. And I'm sitting here like, bro, what's going on? And with this whole perspective on life, I'm sitting here like, whoa. Like even when it seems so much is going on, whether it be true or not, like I'm still able to have gratitude. I'm still able to have gratitude. I'm still able to stay focused. I'm still able to um like focus on the present moment, like knowing that wow, someday he's gonna grow into, a man, or he's gonna grow into this, just the beauty of seeing how that unfolds, to take his first steps, to walk distance and to grow. It's like watching a flower grow, watching a tree grow. But even with that, um, me and this other person was speaking about how, something came up regarding my childhood. I was like, wow, I don't think people sit back and realize like how much, you know, what was the term that she used? What is it? Is it called dysregulated or I think it's called dysregulated, or I forgot the word. How basically, yeah, dysregulated nervous system. I'm like, yo, a lot of people are unaware where a lot of their traumas, a lot of things has happened, how much their nervous system has been affected by that. Me knowing firsthand knows what that looks like, feels like, and seeing it from my own experience, I can honestly say like I'm so honored to see how coming back into my power, taking back my power, stepping in my power, learning more of myself, coming home to myself has allowed me to slow the fuck down, has allowed me to see myself blossom and those around me blossom. So it, I feel like that's one of the most important things I feel, or I see. My perspective is different on life. It's like, you go, 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 but how many of us are aware? How many of us are present? How many of us are seeing the simplest things like the trees, simple shit like nature, seeing things like the birds fly by, or just the awareness of like, whoa. Once you realize that, you start to slow down, you see how fast the world is really going, if that makes sense. So I was noticing my son walking, and I was talking to the person. I was like, wow, it's amazing how we were rushed or even forced by society, or you know a lifestyle, to try to force us to even like force us to death, like force us to work to death, or be unalive through you know unfulfillment, just nothing really joyful or pleasurable, in a sense of like honoring, a value system upon truth and honesty and joy, the simplest things that bring us harmony and peace. And I'm sitting there like, bro, someone mentioned in there, I believe it was my partner, she mentioned like a dysregulated, like we don't even realize how much we've had throughout our teens, and if you want to call it adulthood, or just throughout our experience, how much of a dysregulated nervous system we have had and developed. And I mean, humanity, the, even with panicking, it's wild, because shout out to brother Bobby Hemmett on an old video. It was amazing that one thing that he mentioned about how just to have peace in these moments is so valuable. And it shows the great things that are coming down the pipeline, or coming through us and to humanity, as we evolve from you know an old world or old narrative that was literally so much of forcing a narrative on women and men, children, and so forth, and even a disposition or of the woman, of the matriarchal, how a lot of these things are literally orchestrated and implementing the importance of the divine mother, or the mother in itself, to take back her throne, for that divine feminine principle to be restored, and then for that to be orchestrated, or um, asserted in a healthy masculine way. And I'm like, yo, I was sitting here like, I even recall young. How many of us can recall young? Like, some of us didn't grow up like this, but I remember young how, some of us in homes where you were cussed out or yelled at before you even went to school. So already your fucking nervous system, or, how you operate, is already like, you already traumatized going to school. Some of us were, went through a lot of stuff. So now, being in our 30s, and realize like some of us probably needing therapy, or probably needing counseling or something. I was sitting here like, bro, I remember the fights before, the night before getting up. I remember the fights, at night, then going to bed, then getting up. Like, this shit was wow. The whoopings before you go to bed, like how, I always mention the book, how the body keeps the score, and we're not realizing like our body has kept the score through repressed memories, repressed emotions, and so forth. And it's like, yo, I've gotten to a place where I was telling someone, I was like, it's intimidating to people. I've noticed this about my journey, how I can sit here and talk about my natural gifts and abilities, because divine intervention is how I perceive it. Is how the divine orchestrated what y'all may call accidents in life, whether it's a car, or even someone transitioning through life, or something, being unalive, or through something, you know, the perspective changes when you're able to see it as divine intervention for you to focus on something or expand your awareness or consciousness or however you want to perceive it. And that's one thing I've been noticing. I was like, yo, I've noticed this thing to where the more I become more secure within myself, the more I regulate my emotions, the more I learn how, um coming from a, not having a balance or safe environment, emotionally safe environment, and as I become more safe within myself and realizing, I was like, yo, I was telling someone, we are literally we are literally not realizing like how unsafe, unstable, imbalanced society, humanity, man, woman, children have been for years, eons, and so forth. When I expressed to a sister that was, she's pregnant at the moment, I was expressing to her like, when you look at your childhood or even the importance of, you're not even coming from, a lot of us didn't even come from an emotionally safe mother, and the mother being the first home. So a lot of young men didn't even have a safe a person to return to even feel safe around, because if mama is teaching you nurturing and how to regulate your emotions, well, you talking about a lot of mothers who had a dysregulated nervous system, which again, your nervous systems, your nerves, your veins, your everything that connects to your body, emotional body, spiritual, physical, and so forth. You're talking about coming from dysfunctionality from some women and men, a dysregulated nervous system, a lot of things traumatically, so many things where they never sat down and really, regulated those repressed memories and emotions. And so what you're seeing, like I've said before, in society, you're seeing like this being on a world stage of how humanity in itself has never been safe in the last couple hundred years. For a while, the mothers, when we're talking about the matriarchal, has never felt safe. They were forced in systems or things that were put in place, so they never got an opportunity to face their subconscious fears, never got an opportunity to regulate their emotions. So guess what that does? By them never having feeling emotionally safe, they unconsciously or project onto their sons, not knowing what it is to feel safe and so forth, and I can go on and on. So this is when you see the impulsivity, if that's a word, but the impulsiveness and, the the, the how much so, how many men, and now, or how even the systems in place, when you look at the prison systems, a lot of it connects to the fact of a lot of those men, I guarantee you, their nervous systems, their upbringings and so forth. When there was never a solution for that, it was literally orchestrated for that. The policing systems, the hospitals, all of that, all of it reflects some type of energy and where it was built on. So when I look at even the school system, my partner has said like, yo, our nervous systems have been wrecked or dysregulated since we were children. Get up when you're not told to. Go out, get up, go to school, do this, do that. And it keeps you away from not only your intuition, but it literally is programmed to keep you away from discerning what is in alignment or what is for you as a being, as a human being, and what is safe for you. You tell me it's safe for kids, whether it's, to go out into schools where you don't even hear about in other countries where they are fucking, like, you don't hear about in other countries where they're shooting up schools. Like what? So how can we sit here pretend as if the United States or even this country has been, especially not just for darker people, but for all people, depending on their demographics. When I'm talking about the bigger picture of humanity, how can y'all say that from a lot of what you built your businesses on and what you built, your communities and so forth, how can you honestly say that you're creating an emotionally safe environment for yourself and your kids when you don't even feel safe, and a lot of what you have created was not from a safe place. And I mean a secure place, emotionally secure, emotionally stable. Because that right there is a part of how you perform on this world stage or in the world. And that's why you can see, I know a lot of people that are dark can relate. You see the clutching of the purse by people that are lighter. You see how certain things have built their neighborhoods. And I'm not diving into no race war or create anything. No, this is just a programming. Because it happens with people that are darker shades everywhere, no matter who they are amongst their own people. We do it too. Sometimes when we're dealing with the having to navigate through imposter syndrome, where some of us don't feel like we feel worthy of what we're coming into due to the fact that we're broken, changed from survival mentality, or even that that what is that, Stockholm syndrome, or even the imposter syndrome, just the illusion of what even success is, and just to stand confidently in ourselves and our power, upright, loving the parts of ourselves to get there. And then some of us return, not go back, but return. Hold on, return. Return to places where we're reminded of how far we've come, but we also have to be reminded that people are still in that mindset, survival mindset, to where they're willing to do whatever they have to do, to and for their families, to people and for their families. So again, going back to the nervous system aspect, we have like this is what's going, like, a lot of people are going to, it's going to click eventually. When you go to, again, I always reference the matriarchal, because again, there hasn't been systems or anything in place for the origins of the women who have navigated these lands, um, who have been the first teachers, leaders, and so forth throughout humanity. You know, in the last few hundred years and so forth, there hasn't been an emotionally safe place for them to even feel secure. There hasn't been systems and structures in place, especially when you create a divide amongst people of different shades, and then for them not to honor and support and embrace the very darker shaded women in certain countries, or to even instill in them, or to remind them of their greatness, of their value, or even their sense of belonging here. So that even reference, when I'm talking about the nervous system, it referenced so much of how I'm realizing, with fuck all the distractions that's happening in the world, a lot of that shit is just orchestrated, and the stableness is what's being restored, and almost like knowing that it's gonna feel like a sense of like being replenished, what's being restored in this country. So a lot of that stuff has a lot to do with what's being restored within us and globally, economically, however you want to say it, like, you know. And so again, I want to send this message to a lot of the other matriarchal. A lot of you don't realize like how dysregulated, or um, your nervous systems have been throughout years, and even your grandmothers and so forth. Because a lot of you, this was never shared. A lot of this shit was kept from you so that you don't realize the importance of your your own internal world first, for you to heal, for you to see yourselves, so that you realize, like, wow, it ain't so much of your fault. It's so much of you not being able to have the moment to hold space for that little girl that mama and father didn't step up to, or help guide you through to where you are. So I always tell y'all, this is where the grace comes in with a lot of our mothers, especially women that are darker, that I knowingly know what has went on. Not for the ones that are darker who don't even care to support, or don't even care to really. I'm not saying they don't support in a way, but I mean like support in a way to where they're holding each other accountable. They're holding themselves accountable, and realize, like, you know what, I have to give myself grace and these other people. And again, like, when I'm sitting here thinking about the schools and all this other shit and how stuff, if y'all realize the breakdown and even just systematically how all of this affects your nervous systems to keep you in a this this word keep coming to me. Um, this what is how you say that word? Discombobulated, yeah, or basically in the position of being imbalanced. Seriously, like I see these structures and shit. I'm like, bro, I be sitting back like, oh my gosh, like, yes, this shit is crumbling. There is no saving nothing. What is there to save? What is there to save? And I was telling someone, I was like, how do you know like you wasn't in this position just for you to learn how to rest this time around? Because your mother and your great grandmother or somebody didn't get the opportunity. And then you're allowing people to come in and pour into you. I know that can scare a lot of women shitless because a lot of them have been doing so much on their own for so long and they saw their mama do it for so long. I know y'all scared. Because you're talking about from years and years of not knowing who to trust, what to trust, put your trust, then sense of betrayals and so forth. I will always encourage people. I was telling someone today the vetting process. Because that's what's happening. A lot of us didn't grow up around people who knew how to set healthy boundaries. They pretty much set us up to self sabotage ourselves to end up in relationships that, again, if we're able to see the benefits of how it could lead us to ourselves, rather than standing in a trauma bond or being able to evolve and see the bigger picture, then there's a difference. But other than that, like, you talk about millions of women who truly don't have a support system or even a guiding source or resources out of their dysregulated nervous systems. Because a lot of that shit, going to get support or really genuine support, is taboo to them. Some of them don't even have the capacity or even the energy. I get it. I really do, because I've gotten to a place where I realize, like, what is it gonna what is it going to do to come down more on women who I knowingly been trying their best, or even who I know that didn't even know or didn't even to um know how to do things or do things differently or even have the support. So a lot of their foundations internally is just a belief system that keeps them in that mental state of survival or keeps their, and they don't know nothing else. Let alone, again, not knowing the importance of like what it is to have a dysregulated fucking nervous system. I was like, bro, all that shit to have them thinking like, and it's wild how I break it down. I was like, bro, to get up, go do this, go back and do this. Make time, never having make time for yourself, because it's almost like you will hear people say in today's society, a mother's job is never done. And see, that's the thing. Even the word job, even the word, even how so many of our women have taken on this identity of thinking like mother is all there is to be in life. Like, it's wild, man. If I told y'all a lot of this shit that's happening is designed for and it's in your favor, just so you can finally rest. A lot of you don't like. A lot of you don't like. It's so many things that's, oh, like, man. I'm only saying this because of how I had to do the inner work. I had to face a lot of things to realize, like I was saying before, how you have some elders that I know of that are bitter and pissed because they have been, I use the word low vibrational, or just like they're operating so low and never come out of survival, which is rooted in their, which is connected to the root chakra. They never knew how to come out of that, so their state of mind or state of being would never to be able to see a bigger picture or even to evolve past that survival mentality, or some may say poverty mentality, or just at that level of consciousness, level of awareness and so forth. They don't care, or they choose not to go past that. and this is all demographics, because I've seen it where a lot of you are going to career spaces where you, or even um, career spaces, or even certain, atmospheres where you see a lot of these elders that are in position, whether they're CEOs, whether whatever it is they're doing. And I've recognized how some of them, their deep rooted belief systems are so connected to the old narrative. So much of this self righteous, and how they had to build and sacrifice, because a lot of the old world has a lot to do with sacrificing self for others' happiness. And you know what the fuck that developed? Another part of dysregulated nervous system, because they never sat down. They block. They've kept so much of their repressed emotions due to wars, due to, most importantly, the wars within themselves. Not to mention um, the violence a lot of people had to go through, the substance abuse, the sacrifice they had to do for their families, mostly on a lot of women and men who, just because they assumed that their freedom was to, um you know they bought into the illusion of their freedom has a lot to do with serving countries, or sacrificing their happiness to protect something that was what all about resources and other lands and resources here. Never really it's, bro, this shit can go deep, but I'm gonna just stay right here. But again, when I look at a lot of these elders, when I look at a lot of these people, I'm able to see, because I've done this within myself. Like I said, I'm at 35 learning what it is, and I realize how much this can bother them. For a lot of you that don't know this, when you're already at the tail end of a lot of this shit. A lot of this stuff on the world stage represents the old energy. These A lot of these elders, they represent, a lot of them hold energetically self-hatred, a lot of blockages in their chakras, a lot of anxiety, a lot of things connected to, when you talk about structures like the medical, the hospital, when you talk about a lot of things, whether it's policing, all of these structures are connected, and has connection to a part of, um, not only just their childhood, but how, dysregulated that their nervous system has been since a child. Because most of their deep programming for years, these people have done some of their work, and what they call work, 30, 40, 50 years. So if you think that you're going to make these people come out of that belief system, I've been telling y'all, they're going to transition with that. Most of them, they're going to leave the same way they came, because that's how energy is. You reap what you sow. I've seen it. So now we're getting deeper into wellness and the importance of our well-being. Okay, as a world that goes out, that's not centered around the well-being of us mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, a lot of us are way makers, returning to our ancestral roots, whether it's through herbalism, whether it's through spirituality, whether it's through things that organically, that are natural, that actually allows us to pour back into self and then pour into others. Because I've always reminded you, a lot of those elders are literally bridges from trauma into a holistic way of living. And that's why you're going to see a lot of things that are crumbling, that being exposed. It's only the energy playing out from where this country has been and how it begun. Y'all acting like this country in the last couple hundred years was built on fucking love and authenticity. If that was the case, you wouldn't see a lot of this shit happening the way it is. So the best thing I would encourage a lot of people to do is that, as you see a lot of false leaders, falsehood, false empowerment, all these things be exposed, stay on your P's and Q's and align with who you are and those who are authentic, because that's going to be the way out. And I don't give a fuck what status and how much money you have and so forth. If you think some people are not panicking right now, who never thought this moment would come, listen, for a lot of us, this is divinely orchestrated. And that's why a lot of us are here now, when I talk about the healing system, a lot of that has to do with the nervous system. When I'm talking about where my impulses and why I respond or why I react this way, when you're talking about generations of people who are my elder, when you're talking about what they grew up in, the world, their reaction, their reality is not the same as mine. Their experiences are not the same as mine. Their internal world is not the same as mine. That being said, that doesn't make them not valuable. It's just the fact of y'all don't realize we're already at the end of this shit. We're already in the process of beginning something that allows our children to be able to grow at their own pace. Are y'all hearing what I'm saying? When you're coming from a society with a dysregulated, let's say collectively, it's wounded, unhealed shit from a land and country who has repressed memories and emotions in the fucking soil that run through the veins of people who are present here today in the physical, who still carry things in their blood, in their bloodline, in their lineage, things that were never discussed, things that were never there was never solutions for. This is what humanity and people are holding in their nervous systems. This is where you see the dementia even come from. This is where you see a lot of things where the medical system was never a solution. It was only a process of keeping people in a loop so that you never actually sit with that emotion and memory. It's only to keep you, to numb yourself and to keep you believing like that's the only way. That's why a lot of us are guiding lights and waymakers for the generations after. I was just listening to the song "Natural Mystic" by Bob Marley, and it was just stating like there's a natural mystic flowing through the air, and it was just talking about many more people have to leave, like transition. This may be the first trumpet, might as well be the last. If y'all only knew the symbolism of who people represented, Trump is like a trumpet sounding the alarm. This is symbolic. This is a fucking celebration. Some people will not grasp the awareness around how the fact that we're living in some of the most, it can seem like most treacherous or wildest times, but at the same time, it's just like seeing a tornado or seeing a storm rip through a city and then seeing people literally rebuild from that, but something even greater and better. This has always transpired. This has always been what life has been. It's just like a tidal wave or a wave or something hitting something, and boom. It's no difference in pregnancy with women. No one knows the depths or even like metaphysically what women go through life, through that experience. Every woman is different to where her experience is different, even from the first or second child and so forth. And that's what's happening right now, a birthing of a new world, a new order of things. There's no one that can stop it. A lot of the what y'all perceive as ignorance or what you see and portrayed on the world stage is just a part of an initiation of a new world again that honors and see the value of who we are. Is that not what a lot of you mothers deserve and desire? I don't care who you are. Because a lot of this stuff that's shifting is for a lot of you to come into your initiation. I don't care what color and creed you are. You want your children, if you do have compassion for yourself and your kids, you want nothing more for your children to grow up in environments where they are accepted wholeheartedly beyond what they look like, their status, and so forth. That's for those of you that I know that are in tune. Villages where women who can live amongst each other in peace and harmony without the distractions of the world keeping them distracted from themselves, their well-being, their spiritual well-being, their physical, and so forth. You can't tell me that ain't the priority for a lot of people. It will be when a lot of these things start shifting. Because a lot of people, a lot of this shit is initiation for either people that are going to focus on the fear or they're going to focus on living through love. And love will force you to evolve past the old versions of who you thought you were or even the world wanted you to be. So when I was sitting here like, bro, I realized how so much of how I've been acknowledging what I went through in childhood to realize like how fucked up my nervous system was to where even paranoia, anxiety, looking over my shoulder, realizing how and why this country is in the state that is in, literally state of mind, state of being, conscious state, different states in the country. Come on now. Everywhere you go to is a different awareness. So again, it's funny because I'm sitting here like, bro, and y'all don't realize a lot of this stuff is bringing about swift change so that it's scary for a lot of you because you're like, man, what am I gonna do? What if they take this away? What if they? So what? I was telling someone that I was like, y'all don't like, are y'all serious? Once they take away certain things, it's forcing you to see yourself. That's all what's unfolding right now. Everything is forcing people to take accountability. Hmm. And that's what I'm probably gonna leave this video on. A lot of y'all don't realize that all this shit is forcing on all levels a country, a people, an environment. What's up? I'm doing a video. Okay, so anywho, um, it's drying. That's all. Ah! So it literally is just forcing people to see their shadows, to see themselves. As I start to heal, I realize my parting ways from certain people, I can no longer be scapegoated. Some of y'all don't realize like this how deep shit is. For certain people, whether you know it or not, a lot of these structures, whether y'all want to accept this, I don't care. A lot of these hospitals, a lot of these communities, a lot of these things, when you hear people say that it was built off the backs of ancestors, what they're saying is that the pain of them, the pain. I don't know any other representative, I don't know what y'all want to call the people, y'all call them presidents or whatever. I don't know anybody else that has came along. Like I said, I don't have to agree with whatever other people say, whatever comes out of their mouth. I have no control over that. But when someone mentions that to to the people that are darker shade, knowing that you are a part of building like what you see here today, and then for people to say that to actually move around and go around and act like not acknowledge that says a lot because there's so much depth to the fact of how people even learn from said people. It's just as much as they learn farming, it's just as much as they learn how to build their system. They also learn the opposite because there's a polarity to that. They also learn how to put their own people in captivity, and that's for all shades of people. They also learn how to, because when you look at different classes of what y'all call, you know, they're also through greed have done things to people that look like them and it don't matter their shade and so forth. I can go on and on, but anywho, the bigger picture from all of this is that it's forcing people to take accountability. For a lot of you that are on this journey, you will realize like if I had to give a perfect example for me, I no longer will be scapegoated as a darker man in this country through false empowerment, through false statistics of who I'm supposed to be. Fuck that. Return to sender. Yes. Because I've already realized like I've already beat all the odds when it comes to that. So I could give a fuck about anyone's perspective. I don't care if it's family, anybody else. Because I could care less. Other than that, again, just the fact of once you realize like when you see your life personally and you realize like how what you had to go through to be where you are, no, I will no longer be scapegoated through what somebody felt I done 5, 10, 30 years ago. If I've already taken accountability and accepted it and did what I needed to do and cut ties or whatever it is I needed to do. No, some of y'all need to realize, like, when are some of y'all going to, when are y'all going to sometimes realize that, when are you going to stop being scapegoated through? Hmm. Yep. Meaning, like, not allowing people to no longer use, like, this is so deep. How could I word this? Wherever you are, like, when I start to distance myself from certain people, I realize, like, they could no longer use me for their fucking, to fuel their flame, or even scapegoat through me, or try to use me as a scapegoat for their storyline, as I should say. Now, imagine a lot of you that are darker, how much you feed into celebrating holidays or celebrate certain shit that's ritualistic in a way to where you don't even realize you're still being used as a scapegoat. Even when you agree to this, say, well, this is how they are, this is this and this and this, and you sit there and allow your emotions, which are part of you giving your energy to something, you allowing people to scapegoat through you and literally create more, to even what they call stabilize their reality, or create more timelines where the shit ain't even, like, when are you gonna take back your power? And that's why I realized, like, me even going back to, like, the fact of how I was told to rest and surrender. You don't have to do, no, I don't want you to do extra stuff. I want you to continue being consistent, whether it's your videos, speaking, art, whatever it is, because a part of my acknowledging my dysregulated, like, nervous system was a part of me coming home to the deepest insecurities of myself, the shadows, the childhood memories that were repressed, and so forth. Because it guided me right to those emotions, guided me right to those memories of not just only what I felt that was very traumatizing, but what I realized, it was a guide right back to what I was already aligned, or even naturally giving the gifts to do and to be. Imagine if I just did not listen to my body. And that's how a lot of elders are going out. Y'all don't realize their nervous systems, their bodies, they're going out in a way, they're leaving this world in a way to where there's so much repressed, and it's literally eating them from the inside out. That's what you're seeing what happened in this country and from everything else. When there is no acknowledgement, when you see the world as, like, humanity as a collective or a oneness of all, look at it like a nervous system. You got some people in certain cultures, indigenous cultures, would talk about, you know, the how you can look at Mother Earth or Daughter Earth in a way of, like, how, or what they say, Mother Gaia, or some people may say Sophia. A lot of these connections to where, when you look at the matriarch, and when you look at the mother in itself, you're talking about not only a country, but a world or a plane that has not been balanced when it comes to the emotions of her nervous system, her well-being, how the greed, how things have been manipulated with weather, manipulated through how things are supposed to live harmoniously in balance. The destruction, the greed of the resources, things that have been taken, and it's so much shit. So all that got to be exposed for us to return and realize our connection and our internal connection, and even everything else what you see. So the funny thing about all of this is, like, I'm able to recognize, like, a lot of these elders transitioning represent what kept a lot of y'all in a loop of having a dysregulated fucking nervous system. A lot of them represent that outdated energy. A lot of them represented codependency, toxic and unhealthy, paradigms or connections to the old way of being. Whether that's religious structure, schools, systematically all over, however you want to like perceive it as, it's all connected. The false empowerment of what women represent, the false empowerment of even what men represent. You're gonna have to see the energy exposed because this is how a lot of this country and the leaders that came into so-called false empowerment or into their positions had a lot to do with a lot of things dealing with childhood, kids, so many things that has to be cleansed, that has to be, it's just what the fuck it is. Nobody has to believe it or accept it. Oh, a lot of you don't want your kids in environments or in places where they have so much access to guns and substance abuse and so many other things. No, you don't some of y'all don't even want your kids going to the schools. Some of you feel like you don't even have no choice because of what was given to you, because of the mentality. And so the shift is already here. Imagine if people realize the importance of now, the well-being of self. And that's what I'm grateful for, because I know a lot of mothers are coming into this power, which I'm so grateful for as well, is because I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. I I had to go through the woundedness of my mother and realize like, wow, what the fuck was her level of well-being, her nervous system. When you talk about a woman being shot, then her mother being shot, like never going to therapy, never going to counseling, and then just giving, their first thing they're offered or first thing they told naturally, they go to pastors and it's automatically focused on, a certain religious figure and character when counseling, like that being or that person ain't there physically to talk to you. Some things, interactions, counseling has a lot to do with sitting down, regulating those emotions. A lot of people don't want to feel the uncomfortability of that. They're not willing to face those emotions. A lot of them will get angry. They walk out. They avoid. They run away from the therapy. They run away from that shit. But now, a lot of us who are selected or chosen, whatever you want to use the term, to do things differently, it has a lot to do with you realizing, like, when you're saying you're no longer going to be scapegoated through society, through 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 the governmental structures, everything on all timelines and everywhere, you're choosing yourself. You're choosing no longer to be the victim or the victim to that timeline or to that person or that place. No, because a lot of that emotional resonance and that emotional bond that you built with that person, as you step more into yourself, you realize, like, no, you're choosing to heal that nervous system. That's a part of you choosing to regulate that emotion or regulate that repressed memory and so forth, to be able to evolve past that, to be able to move through that, and to be able to be like, you know what, I got this, I can move forward now. And literally it get much better because a lot of us, it's just what it is. You know, I was telling the mother, I was like, if you wanted to create a community, you see the women that's around you, ask yourself, and this is, I challenge a lot of you women, ask yourself, you know who you deal with, or even in a community setting or career or whatever. If you have kids, ask yourself what type of core values or what type of belief system that you have. Like, would you, if something happened to you, would you allow that woman to step in a position to be there for you, for your kids? And when you ask yourself that, then you go deeper and ask yourself, what type of community would you like to create and build upon that? Because I guarantee there are so many women that are waiting. Not just not it's not about approval. The approval has to happen within you first. But there are so many women, especially very few men, but a lot of women that are ready for these very things. Because I told y'all, it's always gonna take y'all to realize, like, a lot of the healing that's taking place for you is how for you to realize, like, a lot of your development, childhood development, didn't just start when you were physically here. It started in your mother's womb. A lot of stuff that was passed through to you, that hyper independence, a society that keep telling you to, whether you are a 9 to 5 and don't have the opportunity to really be there for your kids, let alone hold space for your emotions, which again, society has created more of a loop so that your nervous system is never regulated. And then for the women who are stay-at-home moms or a part of groups where they created these communities where they don't even really fuck with each other, they don't even really care for each other because they never sit down and regulate their emotions. They're caught up in the glitz and glams. I mean, let me tell y'all, it's a double-edged sword. They're caught up in the buying all this other stuff, which still reflects a lot of what? A dysregulated nervous system. They don't know the depths of that. Because I don't care who it is, where she is, or whomever it is around the world, they have a mother and father. They have their mother and father have vices, going through things spiritually, going through things, has went through things emotionally, mentally, and so forth. I'm not saying this is everyone. But when I look at the collective of humanity, how the woman has been represented, and by men, this is why a lot of y'all taking back y'all power, so you can usher in and create boundaries and set forth. Now you are able, as you heal and as you regulate your nervous system, as you come back home to yourself. Guess what you're going to be able to do now? Not only you're not going to set boundaries, but you're going to be able to go through that vetting process that you did not even learn, and learn how to protect yourself and your kids now that you have them, or just to protect yourself from, because mom and them, due to the fact of whatever they were doing, they allow everyone to have access to them. Now that things are shifting, y'all gonna see the beauty how a lot of women, when they shift, not only inward, but when they shift and build things, the whole nation is gonna shift. And that's what's happening right now. The awareness around how the feminine principles of who we are healing. And therefore the masculine also heals energetically. And that's when we assert ourselves, you know, in a healthy masculine way. And it's not until we acknowledge the wounded masculinity of how we have asserted ourselves and the wounded femininity. So there you go. Again, this goes back the importance of the nervous system. It goes back to, again, how a lot of y'all have not been able to hold space for yourself. So guess what? You see why a lot of women have asserted their way so much in so much of a wounded masculine way or distortion. And some of them don't even know until they receive a certain message or this message and so forth. You're gonna realize how much has not been in alignment, or how much you've been ignoring so much of your truth and so forth. And y'all be great, be grand, be beautiful. Sit your ass down, rest. Find 5 minutes and watch that 5 minutes turn into 5 days, 5 months, however it's supposed to do. Because you're gonna see, I feel like the energy now is gonna illuminate not only just so much of expanding around so much what we cannot run from anymore, but also what we're coming home to. And I always said, mama is the first home. So a lot of y'all don't realize that a part of our nervous systems as men, a lot of us didn't have uh, our dysregulated nervous system begin with our mothers. It's not to say our fathers didn't play a role, but mama was the first teacher. Mama and mothers are the first home. And when you look at us, the state, or this country, and how the mother energy has been portrayed, and how it's not taught for us to come home to our mothers, because we never were able to come home to them, because they never ever came home to themselves. They never felt safe, so they unconsciously or consciously created unsafe environments. This is no different than what you have seen transpire through humanity, where due to that unsafetyness and the emotional safety not being a priority in humanity, your systems that have been in place, the demographics, everything is a part of keeping those women in a dysregulated, you know, emotional state, a nervous state, nervous system, however you want to say it, just so they don't come home to those very emotions and repressed emotions and memories and so forth, to keep them looping. And that was the biggest thing about, if you want to call it a curse, it's been a generational cycle breaker and so forth. That's the biggest thing about all of this. Our mothers now are coming home to themselves. The women are coming home to themselves. It's so much deeper. It's beautiful, and I love it. So to see this shit crumble, to see this shit come to what it is, I ain't mad. I'm grateful because I know my mission and my purpose. And the beauty of it is that I'm honored. I appreciate you all. Peace and love. Shalom.